Kyle Filipowski did, in fact, play for the Duke Blue Devils last night against Louisville, and Duke took care of business. Let's talk about it on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson, and it's so great to have you here with us on this Thursday, February 29th, 2024. Happy leap year, happy leap day to everybody out there. Exciting time as we're talking about Duke basketball and a big win last night for the Blue Devils over Louisville. They bounced back following the loss to Wake Forest, and we'll talk about that game and a whole lot more with our good friend Kevin Connelly, the site expert for Ball Durham, on today's program. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Also, make sure that you check us out on YouTube. Watch our show on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. We're so close to 2,000 subscribers and definitely want to continue to climb as we get into March Madness. Hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it with your friends. Follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils. And I'm there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. So once again, excited to talk about the Duke win last night over Louisville and excited to welcome in my good friend, your good friend. He is Kevin Connelly from Ball Durham. What a win it was last night for Duke. How are you feeling, Kevin?
Feeling good, JJ. You know, it was a nice, easy, comfortable win, but obviously some things that are probably on the minds right now of Duke fans, even though Duke gets a well-deserved over 20-point victory against Louisville.
Yeah, we saw that Kyle Filipowski did, in fact, play for Duke last night. Had a really good all-around game for the Blue Devils. Caleb Foster did not. He was in a boot and was riding around on one of those knee scooter things Connor O'Neill from Devils Illustrated put out there online last night. We wish we had a better name for it, because what are those things called that we saw Caleb Foster kind of wheeling around on? And it does not seem like he's going to be able to make a return anytime soon. So would love to be able to give you more updates and news on Caleb Foster, but we don't really know a whole lot, Kevin. And I guess we will, in fact, just start there. Duke had to play without one of their freshman guards. There's no really timetable for when we might see him again.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? So you go back to that Wake Forest game, and Caleb Foster, I thought, played a really strong first half. He doesn't play the final 15 minutes and 28 seconds of the second half, and there wasn't really a play you could go back and look at. Or like, okay, he got hurt, and he got hurt pretty bad. It was just, and it kind of got lost in the shuffle after the game, right? After the court storming and Kyle Filipowski and other players getting taunted, it was like, oh, by the way, Caleb Foster got hurt. And then I guess it was on Monday when Jon Scheyer went into it a little bit more during his weekly media availability. And you kind of got the sense like, all right, it feels like Kyle Filipowski is going to play against Louisville and Caleb Foster isn't. And the way Jon Scheyer made it sound like, it was like Caleb Foster was going to be out this week and not play on against Louisville or Virginia, but perhaps be back for North Carolina State and North Carolina, and then obviously the ACC tournament. But the way he spoke about Foster after the game last night, and certainly when you see Foster in the boot and still, like, you're in a boot and that's supposed to take weight off the injury, and then but still having to use the scooter and have the leg elevated. I think you really have to wonder if he's going to be back at all this season.
Yeah, tough break for Caleb Foster. Hopefully we get more details in the days to come from Jon Scheyer and the coaching staff, and just the tone in his voice. Again, I realize that this is a podcast. We're talking about it. Go look for yourself, to the viewer out there, to hear exactly how Jon Scheyer sounded, because he's definitely got a heavy heart, I would think, for what Caleb Foster is going through right now. All right, let's talk about the game, though, because Duke picks up a big win against the Cardinals, a really bad team in the ACC, might we add. But Duke did their job. They took care of business like they needed to, and they win by a final score of 84-59. Per usual, in segment number 2, we'll pull up the box score to dive into individual numbers. But what were some of the big team takeaways that you had from a win like this, Kevin?
Well, you said they did their job and took care of Louisville. The one thing that they really didn't do was take care of the basketball. That was a little bit of a concern for me. 14 turnovers. Louisville scored 12 points off of them, turning the basketball over. And you can't really blame Duke for this, but it was a real quick whistle last night in Cameron, in my opinion. So I think for the team, those are two things that I really was looking at, and also the free throw shooting, 9 of 16 against a team like Louisville. You'd hope you get to the line more. And like we're going to say coming down the stretch here, if you want to win games in March, you're going to have to make free throws. And Duke didn't do a fantastic job at that last night. So those are some of my big takeaways for what was a comfortable victory.
Yeah, because I mean, again, with the big comfortable victory, you've got to be able to look at certain things for rooms of improvement, areas to definitely be better in the games to come. And taking care of the basketball is something that has kind of haunted Duke in recent games. Sometimes it's resulted in losses. Other times Duke has been able to overcome those type things. But down a guard in Caleb Foster now, Duke's going to have to kind of tweak with the lineup in the games to come. We saw more TJ Power. We saw more Sean Stewart. And we'll get to some of their performances a little bit later. But again, I think just to your point, it has to be a priority to make sure the Duke basketball team does take care of the basketball.
Well, I think it's interesting when you talk about that. It wasn't really the guards. It wasn't Jeremy Roach or Tyrese Proctor who turned the basketball over. It was 4 turnovers apiece from Mark Mitchell and Kyle Filipowski. Jared McCain had another 3. So really the two guys that handled the ball the most, and Roach and Proctor, only combined for 2 total turnovers. So it wasn't them who were turning the basketball over. It was some of your forwards. So that has to be cleaned up definitely going forward.
And then I just went and looked at the box score deeper when we take a look at those 14 turnovers. 10 of them came in the first half, only 4 in the second half. Once again, it appears the message was clear at halftime from Coach Shire and what to improve going into that second half of play, and Duke was able to step up.
Well, the one thing I thought was really interesting, if you go back and watch the game, the ESPN cameras zoomed in on John Shire right before the second half began, and Duke was in their huddle. And you could kind of read Shire's lips. And at the end of it, he was telling Mark Mitchell, and you dunked the ball. And that's exactly what happened. They ran the play to perfection. The first play of the second half. If anyone wants to go back and watch how ESPN came back from break and showed the Duke huddle, and then that first play of the second half, Duke executed it perfectly, and it was exactly what John Shire wanted. So certainly they're listening to his instructions out there.
He's a good coach. I think that's pretty clear. John Shire's been able to do a lot of good things. One positive team note to talk about as well from the Duke basketball team, consecutive games now where they have made 11 three-point shots. 11 makes in the game against Wake Forest, after 13 against Miami, 11 against Wake Forest, and then 11 more makes from three-point range last night from the Duke basketball team. The outside shot, man, when you're making them, it's big time, and the Duke basketball team is making a lot of them.
Yeah, and they're a good three-point shooting team, and I think a lot of philosophies in college basketball these days is live and die by the three. I don't think that's necessarily Duke's philosophy, given they do have those 2 studs inside in Filipowski and Mitchell. But Jeremy Roach, I mean, man, it feels like he's automatic every time he shoots the basketball. Tyrese Proctor was supposed to be improved as a three-point shooter this year. We haven't seen that consistently, and last night wasn't his best night, going 1 of 5. And I think Jared McCain is one of the best shooters in the land. Now, not having Caleb Foster, who could step outside and hit a couple of three-pointers, I think will hurt you. But if TJ Power does now get more minutes, which I know we're going to talk about in the next segment here of how this rotation is going to look going forward without Caleb Foster, he's going to have to hit a couple of three-pointers. He was just 1 of 5 from the floor and 1 of 4 from deep.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of those individual numbers and some of those performances, and we'll do that after we take our first time out here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, you can get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and so much more. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel is an official sportsbook partner of the NBA and the Locked On Podcast Network. Moving forward here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, JJ Jackson, joined today by my good friend Kevin Connelly, the site expert from Ball Durham. Kevin, tell us a little bit about balldurham.com.
Well, at balldurham.com, we got everything you could possibly want on Duke basketball, Duke athletics in general as well. Obviously now with March beginning tomorrow, we're full steam ahead in basketball season. We'll have everything, news, notes, opinions, game recaps, game previews, NCAA tournament previews and bracketology, ACC tournament stuff. So everything you could possibly want now here in March, we got it over here for you at balldurham.com. And then you can follow us on Twitter at @ball_Durham.
It's really good stuff. I couldn't recommend it more. So make sure you go check it out and read Kevin's great work. All right, so we're talking about this game. We've got the box score up for folks who are watching us on YouTube. We'll be sure to audibly say the stats that we're highlighting for folks listening to us on the podcast platform. And again, leave us a 5-star rating and written review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. 84-59, the final score in this one. Jeremy Roach was the leading scorer for the Duke Blue Devils. He had a game-high 19 points on 8 of 11 shooting from the floor. What were some of the other individual performances that caught your eye, Kevin?
Well, it's interesting. The one thing that really caught my eye was not even necessarily stats in the box score. It was the minutes distribution.
Sure.
So Caleb Foster is out, and you hate to have a rotation set because of an injury, but it's sports. It's the nature of the business. So barring injury, these are going to be your 5 that start every game Duke plays for the rest of the season. And Tyrese Proctor, Jeremy Roach, Jared McCain, Mark Mitchell, Kyle Filipowski, which I think is a pretty solid starting 5 considering it's just one freshman. So players have been there and done that before. I was surprised, though, that Jalen Blakes only played 3 minutes in this game against Louisville with Foster out. I thought he would get a little bit more minutes, and I was surprised TJ Power ended up playing 14. And I guess a little bit has to do with the score of the game, and John Shire just wanted to get these freshmen some minutes. But the one thing that really stood out to me was that Jalen Blakes only played 3 minutes in this game, and you look at the other guards like Tyrese Proctor playing 33 minutes, Jared McCain playing 32, Jeremy Roach playing 35. When you look at the starters as a whole, Mark Mitchell played the least amount of time with 29 minutes. You don't want to ride these horses into the ground. I'm not saying John Shire is going to do that, but these 5 players are going to be playing a lot on the floor, probably all upwards of 30 minutes from here on out, barring another lopsided game in the ACC tournament or the first round of the NCAA tournament or something like that. So I think that right now is the one concern for Duke. They're not a very deep team. With Foster available, you could feel comfortable going 6 or 7 deep with Ryan Young as your lone reserve as a forward off the bench. Maybe Sean Stewart plays 3 to 4 minutes. But right now, I think you could really only say that they might be 6 deep, 6.5 deep with the combination of Young and Stewart trying to alleviate some minutes off of Filipowski and Mitchell's plate.
Without a doubt. I'm curious what Jalen Blake's role is moving forward, talking about that guard position to your point, because just 3 minutes off the bench. I mean, if we look at the guard position as a whole going into the season, you've got about 6 guys that we were frequently talking about when you include Jalen Blake's, the 4 guys that have been out there all season, and even Jaden Schutt, who, of course, is redshirting throughout the course of the season. Now, what type of a role does Jalen Blake's have for the Duke basketball team moving forward? I'd love to hear people or see people comment below on our YouTube channel what you think about Jalen Blake's moving forward with the Duke basketball team, or if you feel confident kind of with the guards at hand, because I do think Roach, McCain, and Proctor are trending in the right direction, right? If they can stay healthy, 3 guards should be enough for the Duke basketball team, just staying out of foul trouble game by game and that sort of thing. But, man, Duke's talented. To your point, though, you just question what the depth situation is going to be moving forward.
And I was a person that said midway through the season when Jalen Blakes was getting a lot of run that when this team got healthy, I saw a path for him to get minutes just because how he impacted the game defensively, his hustle, everything he brought to the team that you really couldn't teach when he was on the floor. But it hasn't really developed that way over the last couple of weeks, and his minutes have decreased more than increased. And You don't want to put words in somebody's mouth, but if this keeps going how it is going, it feels like it could be unlikely that he's a Blue Devil next year.
Yeah, we'll certainly see. One more year of eligibility left for Jalen Blakes, and we'll see what that situation looks like after this season, of course. Again, looking at the box score here, we mentioned the shooting numbers. Duke making 11 3-point shots. 9 makes from the free throw line, 9 of 16, something you want to see improve. But how about the work on the glass as well?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not a good shooting day for Louisville. They go 3 of 17 from three-point range, but Duke absolutely dominated the rebounding battle. They won 43-24 in the battle of the rebounds.
Yeah, when you play Louisville, there's going to be a lot of missed shots for you to rebound. And Duke did a really good job at it. You look at the starters, Filipowski leading the way with 10, Mitchell adding 7, Jeremy Roach even pulling down 6 rebounds. And what we've seen throughout this season, Jared McCain, one of the best rebounding freshman guards in the country, he had 4, and Tyrese Proctor with 3. One thing that also stood out to me was the 7 assists from Tyrese Proctor. That's what you want to see from him. He's going to be your lead point guard the rest of the way. If he can set up those big guys inside, drive and kick for Roach and McCain, who have been knocked down 3-point shooters, that's going to be big for this team too. So I'm glad you pointed out that rebounding stat. And just to follow up on those assist totals, 23 assists on 32 made field goals. So that's another big number to look for going forward for this Duke team as well.
All right, so you mentioned Filipowski because on the boards, he led the way. 10 rebounds for Kyle Filipowski, 9 points. He had 6 assists. I mean, all-around game for Flip. Did not take a single 3-point shot, which is pretty rare that you're not going to see him take shots from the outside, but played an entire basketball game and did not take a shot from deep. Obviously, he was the talk of the nation in the college basketball world following the court storming in Winston-Salem. If you just a word or two on what you saw from Flip last night, Kevin.
I thought it was tough. I thought he was resilient. Not to get in too much of the specifics about the injury and all that stuff, but obviously something happened. He was banged up. But yeah, he went out there, played a tough game. He's a warrior. He hasn't missed a game in his entire Duke career, now over nearly 2 years. And he just goes out there and plays ball no matter what shape his body is in. So you have to tip your cap to him. Played 30 minutes last night. And like you said, he really did a little bit of everything, scoring, rebounding, and certainly setting up his teammates.
You love to see it. Good work there from Kyle Filipowski. He will continue to lead the way for this Duke basketball team, and they are going to need it as Duke gets set to go back at home this weekend against Virginia, but then a quick turnaround to play NC State and Raleigh, and then, of course, closing out the regular season with that matchup against North Carolina. All right, we need to take one more timeout, and then when we come back, we'll wind down today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain your vehicle, level it up to peak performance, and so much more. From roof racks, superchargers, exhaust kits, LED headlights, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. It's eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Back on Locked On Blue Devils here today, JJ Jackson alongside my friend Kevin Connelly, the site expert for Ball Durham. We've got Duke basketball back in action on Saturday, taking on Virginia. UVA lost to North Carolina this past weekend. Obviously, that ACC regular season title race is something we're following closely. And we know with a school like Virginia, they're not going to score a lot of points, Kevin. And it's definitely going to be a grinded out type game.
I've tried to over the last couple of weeks, I'll be honest, to watch Virginia basketball. Man, it is a chore. They scored 72 points last night against Boston College in a victory. It felt like they scored 150. I mean, it is a chore to watch this Virginia team. I mean, before last night against Boston College, they failed to crack 50 points in their last 4 games. I mean, 50 points. I mean, they score 49 in a win over Wake. They score 41 in a loss on the road against Virginia Tech in a game that they lost by 34 points. They scored 44 at home against North Carolina. It's just a chore to watch this team. And I'm going to be honest with you, JJ. Like, I know they're 21-8. They're third right now in the ACC. I mean, I don't know if this is an NCAA tournament team. They have a loss to Notre Dame on their resume by 22 back in late December. Now a loss to Wisconsin. A couple of nice wins sprinkled in there, but obviously the people have talked about how the ACC is kind of a weak conference this year outside of the top 2 in Duke and North Carolina. So I know Virginia's on the bubble. I know they desperately need this game against Duke to try and strengthen their NCAA tournament resume. So they're going to be coming in and playing this game like it's a win or go home type game. But yeah, just sometimes watching these guys, man, it is a chore to do because they certainly don't make it a fun 2 hours of watching basketball when they play.
The highs and lows of college basketball season, because a few weeks ago, Virginia was most certainly a team that was in the NCAA tournament field and picture, and we're making claims for Wake Forest and Clemson and some of those teams to be deserving in the league to get to the big dance at the end of the year. And now all of a sudden you're watching the game last night. They flash up Joe Lunardi's bracketology, and Virginia's listed as one of the last 4 in. It's crazy. What felt like a lock, a team that was kind of poised to go make a run at the league regular season title. And now, according to the bracketologists out there, they've got work to do to get into the NCAA tournament field. Like Wake Forest, though, last weekend, if Virginia is able to go in to Cameron Indoor and pick up a win this weekend against our Duke Blue Devils, that would be massive for their resume. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and it would be a quad 1A type win for Virginia going on the road and playing Duke, who has a high net ranking. But yeah, I mean, even Wake Forest beats Duke at home, quad 1 win for them. And everyone's saying, all right, Wake Forest, they're probably now an NCAA tournament team. And not to toot my own horn, but I tweeted from Ball Durham even before the game was over. It's going to be really funny when Wake Forest wins this game and then turns around on Tuesday night and loses to Notre Dame. And that's exactly what they did. And now they're back on the bubble. And depending what bracketologist you look at, they could be on the wrong side of the bubble. So I think when you look at the NCAA tournament right now and the ACC, you have 2 locks in North Carolina and Duke. You have a team that should be in, barring a late season collapse, in Clemson. And then I think you have 2 toss-ups in Virginia and Wake Forest. And both of them are going to need strong finishes to the season to try and punch their ticket to the dance.
Let's see what can happen. Duke and Virginia coming up this weekend, obviously without Caleb Foster for the Duke basketball team. And again, against a Virginia team where typically you think about shooting from the outside, the way that they play defense and really get after you. Duke's got a great shooting team so far this season. If shots are falling in Cameron Indoor like they have been this year, I think Duke should be in a pretty good spot.
And remember, it's the first time Duke's going to play Virginia since the controversy of last season, what happened in Charlottesville, when Duke doesn't get the call at the end of the game and potentially a chance to win it, and then they eventually lose it in overtime. So first time that Duke is playing Virginia since that game.
According to the ESPN Basketball Power Index, Duke has an 88.4% chance to win this one.
I'm sorry, they played again in the ACC tournament. That first regular season matchup. Yeah, that's my fault. They played in the ACC tournament last year.
I had forgotten about that one too, but you're right. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
In recent memory,
but
things haven't gone our way.
Yeah, they did get revenge. It's been a long couple of days, so my brain, even though it's afternoon, not really working yet. But when I saw it, I was like, "Wait, is this the first time they played since that Virginia game controvery?" He's like, "No, they played in the ACC tournament, first regular season game since that game between these two teams." If you want to give me some credit for that little nugget,
you get all the credit, Kevin. That's right. Okay, all right, man. Well, hey, we'll be following along with your coverage. One more time, plug the website and the Twitter account as you were talking about.
Yep. So balldurham.com, anything you could possibly want on Duke basketball. And then you can follow us on Twitter at ball_Durham.
Couple of McDonald's All-Americans coming up for the Duke basketball team, right? I mean, that was a recent story that you had over there. A couple of recruiting notes to be following this time. You got a lot of coverage over at the website.
Yep. We got a lot of coverage. Like you said, McDonald's All-Americans game is coming up. Geico Nationals is coming up, which will definitely have Cooper Flag. I think we'll be getting the teams for that in a couple of days now too. So yeah, even we're still doing current Duke basketball, but we'll have an eye on the future as well.
Awesome. Well, we'll follow along, Kevin, and we'll do this again soon, okay?
Right on, JJ. Appreciate it.
All right, that's Kevin Connelly joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, and that's going to do it for our show here today. Thanks so much for your support. As always, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and leave us a 5-star rating and written review on Apple Podcasts, if you will. All right, follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils, and I'm there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. That'll do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you, and good day.